1 day left to find out who the last champion of 2015 will be. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from Krakow, Poland for the last day of the WCS Premier League. Our first semifinal. As the gentleman on the expert desk already explained, every match today, and the finals, we don't even know the matchup, but we know it's gonna be awesome because the top four, what a dream scenario for all of us StarCraft fans. Well, time to bring the players out. Time to see who will be the last man standing today. Everyone, our first player. He could be a royal roader in the WCS Premier League. He's here to find out if he can be the new king in the North. Please welcome Zanster! The man who made a ridiculous comeback yesterday and kept his BlizzCon hopes alive. Hailing from France, it's none other than Lilbow. Well, this crowd is definitely ready, so everyone head out. It's time for semifinal number one. Get ready to rumble!
You can't do that. Show, bro, what an introduction. The players are ready, and we up on the desk are super excited for this one. It's going to be a clash between these two youngsters of the European scene as they go head-to-head to see who will be the first grand finalist of Season 3. Roddy, like we've been saying all the time, we couldn't have asked for a better top four, and this is a great way to start the final day.
This is an absolutely phenomenal semi-final. I mean, we've got Lilbow, who last season went to the finals, and what happens so often when a foreign does really great is the season afterwards, all eyes on Lilbow, and then he bombs out in the round of 32. You know, that happens so many times, but not this guy, man. Semi-finals again, and now against Zanster, a matchup that's on paper doable. I do think he is the favorite, not like an overwhelming favorite, but I think most people look at this and saying, I think he can do it, man. I think he can go to back-to-back finals, which is unique, which is unheard of.
That's unbelievable. Lilbow to come in as last season Pig was the first European to get into the finals in a very, very long time. Stefano was the last guy to do that. In 2013, Lilbow came in, and he's looking to do it twice in a row.
His rise to prominence has been so astronomical. Last season it was his first time in Premier League in over a year. He came in and he just went straight through the bracket, and he's showing us that same decisive play through the round of 16, just steamed right through there. He's gone through his opponents, and I mean, that comeback in the round of 8, everyone saw that as if he can get through that, then he can do anything. He can take the whole thing, and I definitely think he's a big favorite going in here.
That was the big test. He overcame even the demon that is Hydra, who, you know, the season before that was the guy that defeated him actually in the final. And it's not even just that he defeated him, it's that he came back from 0-2 on this stage, in front of this crowd to do that. It's amazing.
But he absolutely cannot be complacent here. This is, he's beaten the best players, so to say, in the round of 8. He's going against weaker or so opponents.
That's what I want to say though. Like that's sports psychology. Like in all rights, Zanster is the weaker player, right? But so many times people look past their opponent. Zanster's on this stage too, there he is, because he's earned it. This is a guy that has gotten here, we're calling it a royal road, whatever you want to call it. He's beating people and constantly we're doubting him. Remember in the round of 16, we were like, oh, he's not going to do it. He did it twice. He looked amazing.
Yeah, he played absolutely phenomenal. He made a very good point earlier today. I asked him a little bit about it. How do you feel about your semifinals? He's like, I feel great. And one of the other players that was with us said, aren't you worried that Lilbow saw so much of your ZVP? He's like, no, because in those series, in my eyes, I was the favorite. This time, he's like, I'm not the favorite. That also means I'm going to play a little bit different. And he hasn't seen that side of me yet. So I'm actually very curious with what he means with that, how we are going to see him play here. But he's been hella impressive as well, man.
We know very well about the Lilbow baguette style, as the French players like to call it. But talk to us a little bit about Zanster. You've seen him play Pig. You were a professional international player in Season 1 this year. Talk to us about his strengths as a player coming into this and ways that he can combat Lilbow's well-known style.
Well, Zanster is such a crisp player, and he seems to have a very unique understanding of the matchup. Something we've seen is Patreus as well. The Zerg players who've come this far this season are ZVP specialists in some way, and what we saw in the round of 16 against Mana, Zanster looked very strong. He really liked to be very powerful in the mid-game, a lot of lair tech units, and he seemed to be very intelligent with playing some mind games. He'd often drop a Spire, it would get scouted, he wouldn't build any Mutalisks, and he'd instantly go to Hive and start heading for Vipers. So he's a little bit tricky, but he has very crisp play. The thing is, when you're going up against Lilbow, he's a little bit more solid in that mid-game. So I think Zanster's going to need to play like no mistakes in the early game. He's got to get a good kickoff. Otherwise, things are going to get very difficult.
I think one of the things that gives Zanster, I don't want to call it a leg up, but a really good chance, is that his micro is actually super incredible. A couple of times in that Gung Fu Banda series, it was drones and a Spycar and a Queen versus overwhelming odds, but he was able to get favorable and even really good exchanges. So, I mean, if he can have that kind of micro against Lilbow, who's a very aggressive-oriented Protoss, he's going to do all right.
Okay, let's take a look at the map vetoes. Roddy, you've heard Zanster a little bit from Zanster from Pig. You know Lilbow inside out by now. You play Protoss yourself. Talk to us about the map pool now. It's still best of 5. Both of them have a single veto each to get rid of a map, and then we're left with these 5.
Well, Moonlight Madness is kind of an obvious veto. It's a very difficult map to play against Protoss as a Zerg, and Lilbow vetoes Dash in Terminal, a map that's been left in there a couple of times, but apparently he's just not a fan of it. The order is very interesting though. We're starting off on Bridgehead, and the second map is going to be Iron Fortress. I would say those are not the most Protoss-friendly maps out there, so that could actually be very useful for Zanster to get some momentum going. Because if I think of Zanster, I think of his ZVP. He does have great micro, he has great engagements, but if there's one thing where I think he's slightly better than Lilbow, I think it's the overall mechanics. I think he's a faster player, I think he has better multitasking. Lilbow's army control, on the other end, is also insane when it comes to force fields and blink stalkers, but when it comes to raw mechanics, I think he's a faster player, and on big maps like Bridgehead or Iron Fortress, that could actually mean a lot.
One thing to note too, ending on Cactus Valley, we've actually kind of developed this, we're seeing the meta on that map. Protoss is very strong there, in particular in early and mid-game aggression, and it just so turns out Lilbow is basically the architect of that. So if it goes to game 5, Zanster's going to be in trouble, I think.
Okay, let's take a closer look at map number 1 then. So Bridgehead, you talked about it, a bit of a difficult map for Protoss. Pig, talk to us why.
I mean, this map, a lot of Protoss players don't like it. There's those double rocks on the back, and the Zerg often just knocks those rocks down, has so many avenues to attack, and whether it's overwhelming Roach Hydra, upgraded Zergling play, the Protoss just can't seem to defend all of their bases. So for Lilbow to actually pick this as the first map, this has got to be messing with Zanster's head right now, thinking like, why would he pick this map? What has he possibly got planned here?
And we were expecting him to have something planned here, Roddy?
Perhaps, or maybe he's just going to play it very slow and steady, but Jeff mentioned this as well. When it comes to Zanster, he has pretty good mind games overall, or picks at it. He can drop a Spire and not use it. On a map like Bridgehead, if you see a Roach Warren, you already start worried. Is there a second Roach Warren? Do I have to worry about my rocks? Then as a Protoss player, there's a chance you have to drop multiple defensive cannons, and then Zanster is the type of guy to actually just go Hydralisk, or even go Spire or whatever. So I think this is indeed a very tricky map for Lilbow.
All right, let's take a look at the predictions then, see where the experts are thinking this one's going to go, because I think a lot of people are thinking the same. 8-0 in favor of Lilbow. We were wrong yesterday with 8-0, so we'll see if it's going to happen again, but everyone is behind the baguette. Protoss.
We've been 8-0 in favor of against Zanster before, by the way, to start off this whole trip to Poland, and I believe it was 8-0. And
7-1.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
Oh.
You're the special snowflake. But we paid the price. Zanster is, and it's kind of funny storyline-wise too. By the way, we're always like 4GG, Lilbow, Mana. Zanster's playing for a lot of money. Like, this is really cool.
Zanster can ruin everything.
He could ruin everything.
He could ruin everything today for these players, and that's the type of player that he could be today. And we'll see if it's going to be, but we are ready for the first game of the finals here on Sunday. Before we get into it, before we get to the commentators, do remember, today at 7 p.m. we will officially release the Legacy of the Void cinematic, and of course, the street date, when you know you can play and buy Legacy of the Void. It's going to be a great afternoon for all StarCraft fans worldwide, but it's time to kick off the semi-finals. Let's head to the commentary team for this one. Let's go ahead and get into game.
He's defeated Jaedong, he's defeated 4GG, and he's also yesterday defeated Hydra. Lilbow is 2 steps away on his road to BlizzCon, but will Zanster, debuting here in the World Championship Series Premier League, be the one to defeat him? That is the big question, Todd.
Definitely has not had an easy road, and now Zanster even though he's shown a lot of good things, now more than ever, he needs to be playing his absolute best against the Lilbow that has beaten the past champion here in Hydra yesterday. I mean, after you've beaten Hydra in this tournament, you're supposed to be the favorite remaining in there.
We are going to be getting into this very soon. Regardless of the way this goes, this semi-final, one of these players is going to be in Nirvana. This is a fantastic opportunity here for either of them to really, really take the StarCraft II scene by the horns and be able to run away for a bit. But we are now getting into game number 1 here of this best of 5. Live from Krakow, Poland, to find out who is going to be moving on to the grand final. Will it be Lilbow? Will it be Zanster? Let's get into Bridgehead. We are spawning to the right-hand side here as our blue Protoss representing Team Millennium. Give it up for Lilbow! To the left-hand side, we have our red Zerg representing Team Property, his premier debut. Give it up for Zanster!
Now Lilbow, he showed a lot of very specific, little bit greedy builds in the past, so Zanster is going to be interesting to see if in this series he has picked up on that, the amount of Nexus first that Lilbow's been going for, and if he tries to punish here and there. Bridgehead, I don't think would be one of the best maps to try and that just yet.
The Polish Crow divided here by the looks of things at the beginning of this, and already we're seeing the probe moving out towards the bottom here just to make sure that there is no hatchery going down in that weird location where there are those back rocks and it can come along. Some a bit more of a cheesier play that would be. But Zanster already going for the hatchery towards the low ground outside of that pocket location, and we saw him do this previously as well.
Yeah, Lilbow is playing it really safe, really checking everywhere, making sure he doesn't get tricked here in map number 1. This might be a big tell that Lilbow here is anticipating Zanster not to necessarily always want to try and play standard, and definitely would rather be safe than sorry here in this case with a lot of extra scouting.
Wants to cover all of his bases here, does Lilbow, considering how close he is to be able to make it all the way to BlizzCon. Remember, at the moment, with the 900 points he's currently accumulated throughout the WCS Season 3, he sits at 17th place here to try and propel himself forward into BlizzCon. Making the final would give him a 45% chance of being able to make it to BlizzCon. Making a number 1 spot would give him 99% chance to be able to make it there. It's actually massive here for Lilbow if he's able to make the business.
Lilbow, at this point, he knows what he has to do, and this is what he's been practicing for. He's shown a lot of good things, actually already, not just in terms of build orders, but even recoveries, you know? That map number 3, that map number 5 against Hydra earlier, he was not in a good position, but somehow found one of the only way that he could use to try and do some kind of recovery and come back in this game. He's actually making a slight mistake here with 4 probes on one of his assimilators. Gonna need to fix that very quickly here. There is no place for nerves or mistakes here in the semifinals between these two.
And does correct it here. Lilbow really crossing his T's and dotting those I's, making sure that he is going to be in the best spot here against Zanster. Of course, we cannot count Zanster out at all. We've seen the amount of very, very strong games that he has shown throughout this tournament. And the fact that it is his actual debut here in the Premier League throughout this season is really unheard of. You very rarely see those kinds of results come out in the very first season.
Yeah, Zanster is definitely one of those guys that I feel was a long time coming in terms of finally getting some top-notch results here like this one. The third guy here from Lilbow was taken pretty early, but not saturated just yet. Maybe he was just trying to throw off his opponent a little bit. And Lilbow's just going to be opening like he did against Hydra earlier in the tournament with Stargate here. And behind this, wouldn't be surprised if he just went into 2 more gates, a forge, third base, lots of Blink Stalkers, which is really his key unit, his favorite unit. And to be honest, even in his game against Hydra on this map here, I do think that Lilbow was in a good position up until the point he attacked maybe a little bit too early. They were even on supply. It was like 156 to 156. So usually when it's like that, it's better for Protoss, but Lilbow attacking and being pushed back so easily by Hydra, who just put some incredible effort into crushing that army out of Lilbow on the map, really put him in a good position back then. So Lilbow is going to have to be careful not to have that repeat here once again. And be a little bit more careful. A wall of gateways here on the natural.
Yeah. And we have that Oracle started up as well. You mentioned the position down towards the bottom. There was all that pylon. I assumed it was just a check if those rocks were going to get killed off. But you're right, he's adding on gateways. Zealot's going to micro against this. Does get fended off. And as always, Zanster's really good on his Zergling micro to try and preserve as many as possible in those small skirmishes.
Yeah, this is a map where if Zerg is allowed to go into Mutalisk, it can be really tough to walk around and properly defend against them between usually the natural and third base here for Protoss, just because they're going to be so far apart. So Lilbow probably already has this on his mind, and I wouldn't be surprised if he just went for a lot of Blink Stalkers and tried to pressure, as he almost always does and does really well with.
Oracle about to finish up. Oracle's having a look around and really can't find too much room because those Spore Crawls are already down. In fact, those Zerglings were on hold command. Oh no! And that could have been much easier for Zanster to pick up, but Lilbow gets away with it.
I really like how he picked up on it and just threw down the Nexus anyway. He's like, not afraid of those links. Very, very good job here already from Lilbow.
Uh-oh, whoa, 2 Roach Warrens going down here for Zanster. He's going to be hitting a crisp timing by the looks of things.
And Burrow already started as well. Zanster in map number 1. He wants to use those back rocks here to try and make something happen. He's already spotted 2 of those gateways. The thing is, even if there's an entire wall of gateways there, Roaches can still break them down. It's going to be really hard for Lilbow to split properly his army, half and half to defend against the Roaches attacks.
This is going to be a very scary timing if Zanster is actually going for something like this, unless he's just throwing down a second Roach Warren for others' sake. I mean, if he goes for all of the upgrades with this, if he goes for Tunneling Claws as well and syncs up all the upgrades, this could be very difficult for Lilbow to stop, surely.
I think he needs to see it ideally here with some hallucinated Phoenixes or even his Oracle flying around. Roddy pointed out on the panel that if you see one Roach Warren, you need to see the other one in case it could be the strategy. Actually moving out here by Lilbow, this is not risky because he can recall, and usually you won't lose any sentries, but then that energy is going to be missing for the photon of a charge when he's getting attacked. And I think Zanster was probably counting on this here as well, going for this build. He's probably hoping that Lilbow attacks, he pushes him back, forces a recall, and then counters attack against no Immortals, and in this case, no photon of a charge.
Looking to move forwards here to apply some pressure, but at the same time there were a lot of Roaches in production already. So he's going to have to force field these off well. He will catch a few at the front, separating off that spine core to start things.
Lilbow needs to keep this Oracle alive, by the way. This is the only detection that he has. He never went for a Robo, which in the long term against Roaches is going to make him definitely have some trouble. But right now Zanster, he doesn't have Tunneling Claws just yet. He only has Burrow. He doesn't want to reveal his hand. So he's kind of going to hang in there, try and not lose too much before finally going into an engagement, but the army of Lilbow is already massive.
Yeah, and he still has a lot of force fields available to him here as the Roaches are going to come in from either side, but this is difficult to deal with when all of those Roaches are actually separated. He does have Burrow, the Mothership Core's taking some damage towards the front, really wants to keep that alive as well here. Well, drops the Time Warp though, he knows it's about to die.
That means he doesn't want to recall here. He's going to take the fight, Lilbow feeling comfortable enough to try and deal with these Roaches.
Whooping in Zealots to try and catch some of those Roaches. Really nice move there by Lilbow, and he will continue to conquer a lot of these Roaches. He still has a really strong army, but not that many more force fields left here at the moment.
Zanster's units from this bottom hatchery keep on coming in from behind. That makes it so much harder for him to micro everything or even try to kite.
Drones get pulled off the line here. Zanster knows he's in a bit of trouble. The Roaches is going to burrow underneath those force fields. That's a good move by him, but Zealots swap into the top left here. They'll be able to get onto those Roaches very quickly, tank up some of this damage. Still the detection here is available for Lilbow. Army supply technically in favor of Zanster, but Lilbow's trying to even things up.
He's already killed 17 drones, Skylies, bringing Zanster down to 48 against 54. Zanster is already behind in economy, behind his Lilbow. He could do anything, he can just keep on attacking if he wants to. He can go back, make some probes, get a Robo, but it looks like he might try and finish here. He's only making units right now.
Very strong timing here for Lilbow, really kind of going against what Zanster had going himself. Those Zealots at the back here, not exactly in the best of spots for the Lilbow to actually go into the fight, but throwing down a cannon. He knows he's out of energy and can't really reveal himself for too much longer. Needs to keep these revealed for as long as possible. He's already got the detection from the Oracle for now and throws down more force fields, will separate off some of those Roaches. Still the Stalker number is very, very high here. 71 army supply against 66. Zanster is reeling at the moment.
Yeah, these cannons were even blocking him for a little bit. Zanster really trying to hold on with just pure Roaches. There's nothing else he can make here. Links will be useless at this point.
Very, very difficult here. Some of the sentries have been able to amass energy once again, trying to separate some off, get some of those Roaches out the front. Still has the detection there, in range, and will kill off some. If he got that hatchery while all this was going on, that would be a disaster for Zanster.
Tunneling Claws or not, every single time Zanster goes forward, he loses a bunch of Roaches.
Whole position. He's like baiting out the army now, as even the photon cannon is going to actually provide some extra firepower here. He wants the hatchery. Zanster is going to have to give it up. There's no way he's going to push into this location with the potential of force fields cutting him off.
And losing that hatchery is going to be a disaster for Zanster, really splitting his bases apart. And now Lilbow, he can just kind of sit there and decide where into he's going to be attacking. His army at this point is just snowballing out of control. He's on 87 army supply to 94. But his roaches is just pure roaches there for Zanster.
Needs to come in from all sides somehow, but still, even if he does, the force fields would cut the reinforcements from the back. Pylon's going to go down even further forwards here. The Oracle still revealing that frontal location, and Zanster's going to try and go for a big surround.
And Lilbow's trying to locate the army here, trying to bait it out of position for 1 second. He's just going to keep on whopping in units and resumes pro-production behind this.
Yeah, trying to get some of those pylons towards the back, but that's still not going to be enough there. Get himself another roach. It's very hard to combat here for Zanster. He is really caught up. All he has is roaches against this. This is such a strong Protoss army. He catches even more of them. There's so many sentries. There's a lot of force fields available. They're going to try and pin this in. All angles being hit here from Zanster to try and conquer this location. But it's so difficult. Even a building being built in the middle of all of this, while he's bringing down all of these roaches. Army supply vastly in favor now of Lilbow here in game number 1, who conquers this extreme roach force. GG! Game number 1 goes to Lilbow in this best of 5, and he propels himself forwards with a crisp timing.
This is crazy. This is like watching a top Korean player play here. When I see Lilbow in some of these games, he just gets right in there, hits all the right force fields, it's all the right timings. This is not even supposed to work here. Pure gateway against Tunnel and Claws, Burrow, but somehow he makes it work.
Yeah, the Oracle opener really helped him out to have the detection during all of that. But for now, that does it for game number 1. Let's head over to the analysis desk to see what they think at the start of this best of 5 series.
An absolutely dream start for Lilbow.
Yeah, it couldn't really be any better there, Sean. It's some bridgehead, a rather tricky map for Protoss. He plays against a double Roach Worm build that we mentioned before. And if he hits 20, 30 seconds later, that Roach count is going to be double as high. His push is going to be pushed back. He loses a few sentries, but I don't know how he does it, man. It's some sort of crazy sixth sense of ability that he has, but he always hits on the very right moment, right before Burrow, right before Tunnel and Claws, picks up the first few Roaches, and from that point on, it's so hard to keep your forces together as a Zerg player.
Such a good attack, and as a Zerg player, you've got to just feel so uncomfortable there. Lilbow, he knows where to find that attack timing. As you said, if it is just slightly later, it's so much harder. But for Zanster, you've got to be saying, I'm going Burrow, I'm going Roaches, I'm not going to like 80 drones or anything. I had a great economic start. How did I not hold on against that? And that's kind of what Lilbow brings to the table. And he's always going to be that little bit faster, and I think you've got to play... You've got to have the read. You've got to know this sort of thing's coming. And Zanster just didn't see it. He saw the third base and thought, oh yeah, you know, you're going to add Blink behind this. And Lilbow just went straight away.
That's kind of the struggle that we were talking about. There's strengths and weaknesses too. And it's like, why did he pick Bridgehead? This is a really weird map. There's all these, you know, the back rocks, all the aggression throughout the map. Well, Lilbow's strategy is to dictate the pace and get in front of that. And if you never talk about the rocks, we never get to it, right? So that also something Kevin said yesterday, I think it was. He was talking about how when Lilbow's dictating the pace, he's one of the absolute best players out there. But if you can throw a gear in there and kind of mess him up a little bit, that's where stuff starts to get a little bit chaotic. And actually, that's kind of what was cool about his match against Hydra, was he was able to overcome that. But I feel like if Zanster wants a chance here, he's got to do that.
I feel the more I watch Lilbow, the more he reminds me of MC. I truly feel like we're watching a European MC over here. Most of the time when he attacks, he wins the game. There's very little back and forth and trading, very little epic games, but so decisive in everything he does. And it's just so straight to the point, never messes up when it comes to army control. It's awesome.
Pig, if you were to jump into Zanster's shoes now and play on stage against Lilbow, what would you be thinking and planning coming into this next one? How would you approach Lilbow?
I mean, as Zanster after that game, you've got to say, okay, I was just slightly off holding this. You know, it's one of these things where it looks like it got out of control and Lilbow's losing hardly any units, but that is exactly how that sort of force field base push works. It's a fine line between having enough units to wrap around it initially, start killing a few of the sentries, and as it was, he just didn't quite have that number. So I think Zanster's going to be scouting a lot more aggressively. The moment his lair finishes, he's going to be making an overseer, looking for the extra gateways, and I think he's just going to take this sort of thing very seriously. Maybe cut a few drones shorter, have a couple more units, and get on top of this sort of thing.
Yeah, I think we could see it there as well in the emotion replay of the past one. Zanster kind of just shook his head, knowing as what you've just said.
Because I think he was kind of hoping for the build that Lilbow went for, where the robotics facility is very late or non-existent. that's kind of what you're hoping for. So then when you face the build that you were hoping for, but you still died to the first push, that's really frustrating. You're like, man, this is literally why I went for my build. Like, this is frustrating, but it's exactly like Pig said. It looks like this was a very one-sided affair, but if it's just a few seconds later or there are a few more roaches, once the first sentries die, it's a domino effect. Often all of them die.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time to get ready for game number 2. Is Lilbow going up 2-0 or can Zanster pull it back?
A dominating performance from undoubtedly the favorite here in this first game, as he goes up against Zanster, who right now does not want to let nerves creep in against someone who is more the veteran over him here in the World Championship Series. Zanster, the underdog arguably of this, is looking to keep himself alive here as we go into Iron Fortress for game number 2. Must keep his composure. Lilbow looks to take a dominating position, a lead here, if he's able to go up 2-0. Let's get into it. The second game here in the semi-finals of day number 2. As we have, spawning up to the top left-hand corner, it will be our blue Protoss, 1 game up, representing Millennium. Raise your baguettes for Lilbow! I have to. And down to the bottom left-hand corner, we have our Red Zerg. His debut WCS Premier performance. Representing Team Property, it is Zanster! So much support for these players. Fantastic to see. There's already the Lilbow shimmying out across the map.
I really like what was mentioned on the panel, Kailash. In the first map, it really seemed like Zanster had done his homework and tried to do one of the right counter to how Lilbow likes to play, with a lot of aggression. He went for a lot of roaches, burrow, tunneling class, but in the end, even that didn't matter. Somehow, Lilbow is always able to find a way to make his build work no matter what. And in this case, I think he was anticipating a hatchery first, and look at this. It just opens for a forge, double Scott. It's gonna be a cannon rush here, no matter what. With 2 probes across the map. Zanster, if he does not realize early that this is for real, doesn't pull enough drones, it's gonna be really hard for him here to properly hold. Pylon's gonna go down immediately. Zanster needs to react.
And this is Lilbow messing with his opponent. He knows that after game number 1, Zanster might be feeling the pressure a little bit, might be really on edge. Lilbow already bringing this down. Spawning pool is by nowhere means finished at all. The pylon's already down. This pro's going to be dancing. Where is
the defense. Great defense here so far by Zanster. Lilbow doesn't start any cannons. I think he might just go for a Nexus here. Look at this.
Yeah, look at it. Look at
so many probes, so many drones were pulled that he knows that this is not worth it for Zanster to defend like this for this long. But Zanster had to here no matter what, because if he hadn't done that, I mean, cannons will start and then you just die. Yeah, just lose the second base and you're dead.
Aside from the drones working away at the pylon, just the drones in hold position at locations to deny the perfect spots for the cannons there. That was really, really well played out by Zanster. A great little defense.
They're mining for so long, so Lilbow is like, well, you know what? You already defended this. I'm not gonna commit any more to this because it's not gonna work anyway. Starts a Nexus, behind this starts a gateway. And I guess tech-wise, his tech's gonna be delayed a lot because of this. And Zanster is going to allow him to drone up a lot, but at least, I guess, nobody died early on, because both players could have died here. Zanster if he got cannoned, and Lilbow if he committed to it, and it didn't work.
Just falling back now, going to get himself a gateway. Double gas is going to be taken here from Lilbow as well. And on the other side, Zanster has been able to spot exactly what's going on at the front of this wall, so he knows with that forge opener that any kind of gateway pressures or things later on are a little bit delayed from here on out, as this drone heads up towards the third base, and the probe decided to dart on away, so no blocking potential for him just there.
Yeah, Zanster, I think from this point onwards, he knows that he opened normally with the hatch first, and he was able to make sure he didn't get cannon, so he knows that there's really nothing to be afraid of here for a very long time. Since the gateway started so late here in this game in comparison to when you go for a gateway first, there is not going to be any threat. The only threat that could come here at first is going to be like maybe something like one single Zealot, which is not really that scary, or even Sometimes Protosses, you know, we get a little bit desperate and we try to cannon rush that third base, but Zanster even has an overlord there to make sure it doesn't happen, so he knows that he's very safe right now, and Zanster is going to be pretty happy to just be droning up for a very long time.
He even spots this probe, ended up trying to retreat on out, or at least get himself all the way home. So as long as he's able to keep note of that, he knows at the moment there are no probes on the map, unless there was an extremely sneaky one that he missed earlier on.
It's so hard to play against a Protoss like Lilbow on this kind of map, because he can put all his production facilities in the back of his main mirror line, and it's going to make it very hard to scout it. Even when he played against Hydra, he plays the Robo in a position where if you sent an Overlord in, then he would have to die. Fantastic memory, Funka. It was right there indeed. And in this case, it's going to be a Twilight Council here in the back of his main base, Lilbow.
Uh-oh.
I'm thinking maybe Blink, because like he already went for the +1. So maybe something like Blink and 6 gates on 2 bases like Mana did earlier, or could still be going for a standard third base, but only one assimilator is taken on naturally for Lilbow. Okay, no, he's gonna go for the other one. Getting a second Stalker here though after the first one. Usually you start building up your sentry counts at this point in the game.
It was a small and characteristic supply block there for a moment for Lilbow as well. He got out of it, and just it's cost him a few seconds there, but at least he's chrono boosting into that +1 at the moment, getting himself some extra gateways, getting himself well set up. And Zanster at the moment needs to know exactly what's going on at the back, but it is so hard to get back there, as you mentioned.
It's really starting to look here like a 2-base Blink all-in here by Lilbow. He only had 2 gateways for now, but the explosion's coming up. Kailis is going to be 2 more, and usually you go into 6, 7, sometimes even 8 gates, especially considering that Lilbow, he's got all of his gases saturated there. Does he start +2? Yes.
Surely the big question here is, when is the Overseer timing going to come along for Zanster? That's one of the only ways you can actually get towards that back corner to start really identifying things.
The thing is, Zanster thinks this is a 7 gates with just sentries and units. He doesn't think that there is any Blink on the way. So he's only making roaches and links right now. Zanster cuts drones at 52, and that means that he only starts a layer now, which is very, very late. So I don't think he's going to be able to see it on time to realize early that it's Blink. But in the end, it doesn't really matter, because all he needs to do is, I guess gets a lot of links and roaches either way. He's starting to drone back up though. Zanster, if he knew what's going on, I think he'd only be getting units right now.
Send some links forward, still really doesn't know what's going on. I mean, aside from the fact that the Forge has been whirring away for quite a long time, so you might anticipate +2 gut being down, and despite not seeing the Twilight Council, might know what is there. But that's a lot of units hitting here for Zanster. And is he going to try and walk into this? Right now, there's no sentries to be able to help this out. The Mothership Core is not even out either.
Love side. Forge.
Ooh, at least he underpowered it and slowed down that +2 finishing up. That's a really good pickup there for Zanster.
Yeah, Mothership Core is going to start now, and Lilbow, does he still want to go here for this attack or not? Having seen this many units, I'm actually surprised that Zanster pulled back, but I guess he didn't want to trade all of his units for just a few, and then end up losing everything, get countered attack, and then die. So he saw that there was a lot of Stalkers. Protoss with no third base at the 10th minute mark, usually you're not going for a third base.
The Lings are checking everywhere for what is going on at the moment. Very, very carefully. It's like, well, why aren't you taking a third? Why did you only have those Talkers at the front? Why haven't you moved out yet? Obviously, the +2 being slowed down is a big factor here. And the full wall off has gone down. Lilbow here is looking to move that probe forward, to get himself a frontal pylon and try and start exerting some pressure.
I really like how Lilbow checked all around his bases here to see if there was some kind of units ambushed somewhere. And the Hydralisk production is about to start here for Zanster, who's actually got quite a bit of supply here, free to make a lot of units. He's waiting till the last second to make his units, and now 9 Hydralisk are going to start. Those are going to be very important. Hydralisk, you want to have as many of them as possible against this kind of timing here by Protoss. In this case, Lilbow might be able to get in there just before those Hydralisks come out, if he was able to.
Spine Crawlers have been started on the high ground here for Zanster. He knows that this pressure is about to hit him. Mothership Core only has energy for 1 time warp at the moment.
There's going to be just a very few force fields and Guardian Shield here for Lilbow to work with. But if he's able to make the most of them.
Yeah, needs to use it very, very efficiently here. Needs to blink back all those Stalkers at the front to make sure that they are going to be as cost efficient as possible. He knows that Lings are going to try and come for the wrap around at the back. Blinks away from that. The Mothership Core has already gone down here. Zanster is looking to really power on against all of these Blink Stalkers, but with that many Blink Stalkers at the moment, he blinked forward with some of those. 26 against just 13 roaches and 12 hydras.
Zanster overextended here for a little bit. Lilbow also likewise used his force shields a little bit too early and didn't have any Guardian Shield to work with.
Some of the
now it
upgrades-
looks like Zanster is going to have enough.
Yeah, some of the upgrades are just about to finish here for Zanster. Group Spines even finishes, allowing these hydras to attack earlier as they're pursuing on against this force. But still, a lot of Blink Stalkers. Blinks forwards once again. Now it's on cooldown. He's going to lose a lot of these Stalkers at the front against the hydras. And Zanster might be able to overpower this location.
Yeah, that blink forward is being punished here by Zanster. Even targeting the low hit point Stalker in the back here. Both players microing their heart at Lilbow down to a very few Stalkers. Zanster trying to squeeze out as many Lynx, Roaches and Hydralisks as he can, even replacing the Queen here.
Lilbow might have given Zanster a bit too much room here against this, as he's got so many more Roaches with Zerglings and Hydras on the way, and the critical mass of Stalkers has now been kind of cut. So 36 armor supply against 71. It's very difficult here for just these Stalkers to do much.
And these very few Cryptomers, they're really helping here, and with vision, with speed as well for the chasing. Zanster cannot overextend and go too far out. Lilbow's just gonna be blinking back here. Zanster closes in.
Look at that movement forward here, sort of stepping these Roaches and Hydras towards the back of this. Even if he blinks some of the back, some of those Stalkers, they will end up taking a lot of damage. Zanster is looking to try and tie this up. 1-1 GG. Game number 2 goes to Zanster, and he is not deterred. He is still confident. Look at that shake of the head. Wow, going up against Lilbow. Impressive confidence that we're seeing out there. Not unwavered by the results of game number 1 at all.
After map number 1, a lot of players should have started to crumble under the pressure, but not Zanster. He stays focused, gets just enough drones, a bunch of units, goes forward, realize, I guess early enough what he's up against, and in the end, through perfect injects, gets enough units here to defend this 2-base blink all-in by Lilbow. And this is why Zanster is so good. He's just so fast that if you do this kind of build against him, either you somehow catch him off guard, or the execution's too good for him, or otherwise he's almost always going to be able to get enough that he's going to be able to hold. Because this guy is very good at making units.
What do you think of the attack that he actually used at the very beginning of that game with the Zerglings and Roaches to slow things down on the other side? Was that instrumental in him having enough later on? How does that play out?
Yeah, it was really helpful for him to realize exactly what was happening, because at this time it was too late for it to be like a standard 7-gate, unless Lilbow was, I guess, banking a lot of sentries and trying to get a lot of energy on them before he hits. So it was, I think, either going to be a 2-base blink all-in or an immortal all-in. And in this case, when he went forward, he saw the blinks, he saw all of the Stalkers, and he's like, okay, this can only be one thing, blink with +2. So Zanster, he rightfully pulled back, made sure he kept all of his units alive, and stayed up the ramp for Lilbow to engage into him, because then it was very hard for Lilbow to properly force field in that position around the 3rd base of Zanster. Unlike in the previous map, on Bridgehead, when Lilbow attacked, he was the one who was really dictating how the fight was going to go, not just because he had a lot of sentries, but also because of all that surface area he was able to work with in terms of having a lot of places to force field against the army of his opponent.
All right, well, countdown has begun now for game number 3 here. Zanster being able to bring back a map and making sure that he can still keep his World Championship Series premier run alive, considering it is his very, very first that he's made it to the round of 4 so far. If he was to make it to the final, that would be absolutely incredible. As we now get into game number 3 here between our Protoss and Zerg to find out who's going to be going on towards the grand final. Will it be Lilbow? Will he be a 2-time finalist? Will it be Zanster? Making it all the way through in his first appearance here. As we have spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner, it is our blue Protoss representing Team Millennium. It is Lilbow! Oh my god, up to the top left-hand corner we have our red Zerg representing Team Property. Give it up for Zanster!
That is a really cool attempt here by Zanster in map number 3.
Yeah.
Lilbow on this map is almost always going for a pylon down the ramp and then a gateway down there. A lot of the time, sometimes even Nexus first. So Zanster says, you know what, you want to play greedy, you do a lot of the same builds, it's time to finally punish you. just going to be opening with a pull 7, getting links to go across the map, make sure he breaks Lilbow here right from the start. Might not be able to kill him necessarily, but this will do so much damage. Like, this pylon is basically going to die instantly when he gets there. He can go for the probes right after. Lilbow, he's going to need to see this and then react properly. Maybe with something like a pylon in the main, forge. But sometimes you see Protoss players try to react by just chrono boosting out some zealots and pulling probes to try and fight against those things. But in this case, it's going to depend on Zanster making a certain amount of links or not.
Look at how well-rounded a player Zanster is. It's now been spotted. Lilbow panicking. Look, you can see it in his eyes there. Just a little bit of a panic.
Oh, he goes for the forge in his wall as well. So maybe Lilbow is going to try to buy time here with a full wall while he chrono boosts out some zealots and starts a cannon. The thing is, those Zerglings, they're going to get a lot of surface area here against that wall, and they're going to break it down pretty quickly. Lilbow, this is a big risk here that he's taking.
You're totally right. That first pylon that's in the wall, it's the easiest building to hit, and I think a lot of the Zerglings can get surface area on it because it's in the front. And now Lilbow is going to have to frantically continue to wall this off here. You can see the cogs working away in Zanster's mind as he started in this game, and he is going to be able to kill off the first pylon. The first zealot is out though. And will he be able to do much more than that?
Oh, Lilbow, he goes for the cannon in the main. This is so smart. Lilbow realized that he wasn't going to be able to hold in the natural if he had started the cannon because the build time is 40 seconds. So he starts it in the main, and he's going to try to hold on here in his main with the probes and the zealots.
That zealot is so important right now. He cannot let that die. He has to keep that alive, keep it in small choke points, trying to get somewhere onto it. That's a lot of Zerglings on it. Using the probes to actually try and combat this as well. Very important that he does not let that zealot die. That's a lot of the damage here to try and combat against this. He fends off the Zerglings, and the cannon finishes up.
And this has been defended. Lilbow, if he had been able to get a second zealot, actually could have killed those links and retaken his natural, but now I guess he's still gonna have to rebuild in his main. Whereas Zanster behind this, he went into drones, he got a queen. We are now at 16 probes against 11 drones.
Wow, Lilbow, crisis management going on here. What is such an impressive little hold from him. Does go into the later stages of this game now with that economic advantage, but Zanster is going to be trying to catch up as quickly as possible, but without a natural location at this point here for Zanster, it is difficult.
Yeah, Zanster is going to go into a hatchery here, though earlier than Lilbow is going to be able to go into a Nexus, already taking the double assimilator. When your tech gets reset like this, as Lilbow, I mean, as nice as it is that he was able to hold on, the gateway just finishes so late that retaking that natural is going to take a very long time. And Zanster should be looking to try and keep his Zerglings alive to make sure that he can delay it for as long as possible. Even getting a kill on that assimilator, this is really nice for Zanster.
Very well done. He'll be able to just kind of annoy his opponent at any angle he sees here. Sees that gateway being chrono boosted into to try and save this position. Going back over towards the natural, will take that. And looking to try and find small areas on the extremities of this base away from the cannon. But the Zealots, of course, are trying to fend those off.
Yeah, Lilbow, I wonder how fast he's going to try to retake that natural here. Maybe he just goes now with like a third Zealot. The thing is, he has absolutely no information here behind this. He didn't see if Zanster went for something like a gas. He's trying to get speed. But I guess he can kind of judge from the timing on those Zerglings that he was a pull 7 and that the economy of Zanster behind this was very, very low. So even if he had gone for speed, it finished very, very late. So I think Lilbow might just be comfortable with getting Mothership Core and then restarting that second Nexus on the natural pretty soon.
At least these three Zealots are able to fend that many Zerglings off. As we'll head on down here. The Zerglings are trying to get towards that probe, but Lilbow's doing a good job of zoning them out for now.
Not holding hands anymore, are we?
No, seems not. Ooh, that probe just darts on out there with a nice little mineral walk on through towards the main base. Very well played out here. And we will continue on with the third hatchery going down for Zanster.
Such a high-level series here already we're seeing from both of these players. Really trying to outdo each other the whole way. And Zanster in this game, even though he went for something interesting, in the end, the defense by Lilbow was really, really nice. The Nexus started late on the natural, sure, but Lilbow, we've seen, even when behind, actually he was on this map against Hydra, where he was really far behind, found himself on one Nexus against 3 bases. He's able to make magic happen just with those perfect fights, perfect force fields. Now he's going to go up to gateway 3 and 4 here on his natural, still on 1 gas. I'm really starting to wonder if Lilbow might be wanting to go here for some kind of big pressure. Look at this, the probes moving out on the map.
Wargate's about to be done, and considering all the timings of everything else, it's a little bit difficult to tell here, but with Zanster's Roach Warren going down and speed on the way, he's going to have to start making units pretty early, and that will, in essence, delay how many drones he's going to have.
Zanster actually cancelled the 3rd base. Much like in the previous game when he saw he was a 2 base, he cancelled the 4th base here, realized that he's going to need only units, and that 3rd base could be the reason he loses the game
Yes.
if he was to let it up. So this is a win for Lilbow. If he moves in that position on the third base, sees that there is no third hatchery, he can just go home and be happy to be a two-base Protoss up against a two-base Zerg. 7 Roaches are gonna start. And at this point, Zanster,
Big commitment.
this is for the defense, but he can also go in the offense with this. Because look, link speed is about to finish. If Zanster only made units from now and when across the map, there is a chance he can really surprise Lilbow and do well, but he's gonna restart a third hatchery.
And he's just moving away with that force for now, without that third being there just yet.
He might force a recall.
Yeah, I mean, those Zealots are going to have a hard time getting away from the Roaches and Zerglings, especially since they've got the Zergling speed now. He's going to have to get on out of there pretty soon. This force is going to die off, and that's a big sacrifice of Zealots if you actually do let
Recall.
that go. He's trying to kill off as many Zerglings first, will recall on away.
Yeah, the Mothership Core was a little bit far away from these units, so now Zanster is going to start moving across the map. This is not a force that can be underestimated. I think Lilbow needs a bunch of Stalkers here, maybe for some damage. He's already got a bunch of Zealots and Sentries. And behind this, almost reaching that optimal saturation on 2 bases.
And also, if this wall does get breached, no energy for Photon Overcharge yet, because that recall was forced. So Zanster trying to move forwards here with those Roaches.
That's 8 Roaches here against no Stalkers, just Zealots and Sentries. This is... Can be really dangerous here for Lilbow if he fights. But I guess being up his ramp here is going to make him pretty safe.
I think with that poke forward, seeing those sentries there, he doesn't want to commit and get all of those units trapped on the ramp and allow some of them to die off. So he just backs off for now. Hallucinating Phoenix is going to get in here and have a look around and see the layer morphing in. So he knows the state of where Zanster is right now.
Forge plus Twilight Council goes down here for Lilbow. +1 melee here for Zanster.
Ooh.
Maybe wanting to play rather Zergling heavy than Roaches or with some ranged units. In this case, he's just going to start saturating that third base there. Zanster is on 51 drones against 49 probes, so Lilbow really doing a fantastic job here of threatening all the time, making sure he's across the map right now, actually, with quite a few units, while Zanster is trying to prevent a third base from going up. So as much as he's going to be able to do that, we might be going to some kind of weird base trade here, unless Lilbow maybe recalls. But I think being across the map here with this much, he can also do a lot of damage here.
I don't think he realizes the positioning of the Roaches just yet. I think he thinks it's just the Zerglings, but now the Roaches are going to show themselves, and this entire third base is going to be evacuated out here. This is a really crazy situation.
He's going to recall. He's just going to recall after sniping this third hatchery and be a 2-base Protoss against a 2-base Zerg. Then Lilbow can go into the third base himself and defend against these Roaches there. Recall.
Perfect. Hello. Runaway Roaches. All you got really was a little bit of a wall here. He's going to try and get as much as possible, though, with the Zerglings that have separated themselves up, but don't forget, that cannon that was there all along is going to pay for itself now.
And Lilbow actually adds on 2 more gateways here. I guess he lost 1, so he needs to make sure he's at least on 5 to make sure he can produce a lot of units.
Could he just go +1 blink and then just go if he wanted to, or do you think it has to go into a third base?
He'd need more gateways, I think. Like it's way too late to make them now and go into this. And also Zanster, we've seen how many units he can make. But right now Lilbow's out on the map. He needs to be careful. He spots the army of Zanster. Going to be trapping a few links.
Too bad for 4 force fields, as he'll be able to bank up plenty more energy before any kind of proper engagement comes along once again. But that being said, we're already seeing Zanster trying to take this fight. Those Lings are not doing well against the Zealots on the left-hand side. There's a lot of Roaches coming in, though, from the right here, trying to KO off as much of this as possible. Allows the Zealots to move through. You saw him move those sentries and Stalker back, so the Zealots could get on top of these Roaches, and I don't think the Roaches are going to have much success here at all.
Yeah, and Lilbow's starting to have a lot of minerals. He's going to start 2 more gateways here. I'm starting to wonder if he might want to go maybe into some 2-base, much like against Hydra. Is being forced here in this position, and really might be starting to think about it, because he's killed so much here of the army of Zanster.
Army supply in favor slightly here of Lilbow, as he's going to now move across the map.
Yeah, he walls off. He walls off his natural. Lilbow's going for it. He's just going to have the 1 pylon on the map here to reinforce.
Technically, resources lost is very close, but Lilbow here with this army, the fact that he has Blink against just Lings and Roaches here, it's going to be difficult for Zanster to hold off, because his economy has been in tatters throughout the majority of this game.
Oh, Zanster evacuates. I think he realizes what's happening, saw the size of the army of Lilbow. He's like, I'm not ready to take on this many Stalkers. So this third base yet again, he's going to be sniped. And Lilbow behind this. Does he go for an attack or does he expand? He's now on 7 gateways, guys.
7 Stalkers just walked in towards the front, I think, here as well. They can blink down towards the low ground if they need to. They don't even need to kill off those rocks. And they will do as they rendezvous with that force at the front. Pathogen Glands are started, but it's so far away here for Zanster. If he could get that, if he could get Infestors, yes, maybe he'd be able to beat this army. But right now, it doesn't look like it.
Kailash, those numbers are really... Oh my god. Oh, he catches a lot of Zerglings, but those numbers here in army are really starting to scare me here for Zanster. It's 29 Stalkers to 21 Roaches.
Yeah.
And there is not enough Zerglings on the map to make a difference.
This is a huge pressure situation here for Zanster. He is going to crumble here if he cannot hold this off. He's trying to position himself to greet this army, but look how many Stalkers there are.
He's getting links and
this.
Infestors. If he gets a bunch of Infestors and chains Fungals this army, Zanster might have a chance. But right now, if Lilbow was to attack, he might be able to finish it. He doesn't know that there's an Infestor transition here, though, in the works.
3 Infestors. I think he might even need more than that, though, considering how many Stalkers there are here. This is going to be very, very difficult. Walls the Roaches from actually being able to reinforce off. This is a big deal. Lilbow is going to go straight for the jugular towards the natural already and blinks forwards against the separated up army. This is a perfect move, and he could force field back at the back if he wants to. Throws down the time warp, slowing those units. Still has Fungal will land on some of those Stalkers at the front. He's pulled off the drones though. He knows it's not enough at this point. He tries to move forwards with the Roaches. 20 drones have already gone down. Big army supply advantage here for Lilbow as he brings in more Stalkers, and there's only the Infestors left. Lilbow, there you go, GG. Game number 3 goes to Lilbow. And now he is 1 game away from the grand final here in the World Championship Series Season 3. Such impressive stuff here by Lilbow so far. And now Zanster really is up against it. 1 more map.
Lilbow is now 1 game away from going to the grand finals of the Season 3 playoffs. Looking forward to that one. The players do need a couple more moments, so we're going to take a quick look at that previous game. We've got the gentleman here to help me break it down in Control Pig and Rotterdam. Game 3 here. We go ahead and see a very early scout from Lilbow, and he sees what's coming, which is the 7 pool. And then I want to talk to you both, in Control, start this off, with the reaction that Lilbow takes. Was this the right way to play this? Could it have been better?
Oh no, I really like his reaction actually. He knows that so much econ has been sacrificed to get this 6 pool out, mind you. This is a very fast Ling attack. He's gonna delay them here long enough to get a Zealot out, and you can see he kind of thinks about it. He's like, do I want to make my stand here? But with that Forge so far behind and so much surface area on that pylon, something that the commentators talked about I really liked, it meant that these Zerglings were going to get through here. Now, if you make a final stand over there, you cannot pull your probes reliably to help out with this. So all of a sudden, it's a single Zealot against 8 potentially more Zerglings, and that's just not good odds. It's not very good at all. So he pulls back. You can see him deciding to do that, and he makes this final stand in the middle line.
It's such a conservative way to react, saying, I'm going to sacrifice that whole natural wall off, but Zanster, knowing he needed to get damage, what's interesting here is rather than staying on the low ground, killing the pylons, the gateway, the forge, and then maybe doing a little bit of harassment in the main, he goes straight for the jugular and says, I need to kill more probes with this. And this is where the positioning of that cannon makes a little wall off. The Zealot there, of course, he gets a good surround on the Zealot, but the probes drill through the Zerglings, surround them all, and notice whenever they're about to die, he drills them all, so the Zerglings can't keep attacking those same probes. By mineral walking, actually stacking them on top of each other, he completely negates the damage, only takes 2 probe losses, and deflects most of the Zerglings.
Well, Roddy, was this a success?
This was not a success for Zanster. It was alright. It was sort of acceptable because he does clean up the low ground, but right now the worker count is still in favor of Lilbow, and most importantly, there is no hatchery down yet. It's okay for a Zerg to be down a couple workers as long as you got that hatch on the way, but he doesn't have it on the way yet. I think it's safe to say here, Sean, that Zanster did not expect a probe scout. How many games haven't we seen of Lilbow this tournament where he doesn't probe scout? He goes Nexus first, no scout. If Zanster does this build against Nexus first, no scout, it's straight to the bank. You know, he's going to win that game. He just didn't expect that. Kind of made the best of it, but Lilbow is a very experienced, very calm Protoss, and I felt he made so many correct choices after he saw what he was up against.
And a little bit unlucky there, obviously, but here we are going into the latest parts of this game. And talk to us through this, Roddy. This is where Lilbow started to stabilize. He's taken his lead into the later parts of the game, and talk to us through where we are.
And he just keeps the pressure on, make sure that he never gives too much time to the Zerg, so he's going to march across the map with an army that has recall available. He's also still giving his opponent the idea, you know, I could be doing this just to go up to 3 bases, but I could also be doing this to actually win the game. We see a small counterattack, but in the end, that's not going to be good enough for Zanster. I don't know why he did that. Perhaps he was afraid to engage his army. I actually think if he has all his units here, force fields are always tricky, but I think he could have kept his hatch alive because there's no pylon or war prism on the map.
Yeah.
The moment you sacrifice that next or that hatchery, I think it's going to be very, very, very difficult.
And you just can't keep up with production and unit count, can you, Pig, I suppose, from this position?
It gets so awkward from there. I mean, Zanster going for the counterattack was smart, but it wasn't there fast enough because losing the hatch and the recall getting home, it meant that Zanster here, he had a lot of units out, but no production, no economy behind it, just 2 bases. So he had to try to get damage done here. He was desperately trying to surround, focus down the sentries, but at the end of the day, he's killed the sentries, but he's lost so many roaches and zerglings for it.
And this is where we see Lilbow so comfortable. He's got his stalkers, he's got his sentries. He knows he's probably in favorable economic situation, if not at least equal. And with that situation, Lilbow is always going to be very comfortable.
The one thing I didn't really like about the counterattack, though, is that it wasn't a very devastating counterattack. It's a few lings and it's 6-7 roaches. Like, yeah, that's annoying, but if you're already on 4 or 5 gateways, if you wipe in 5 units, that counterattack army of Zanster is going to have trouble dealing with those units behind the wall. I think if you want to counterattack, it has to be very hard hitting and it has to be able to overrun a line of defenses immediately. And this is kind of like tickling the wall. You know, you throw a couple bricks at it, but it's not coming down.
And as you can see, this is where he just kind of cuts the army in half and then finishes his job. A 2-base Zerg just can't keep up with what Lilbow has picked. Talk us through this final moment.
I mean, Zanster does the best he can. Some actual amazing kind of flank coming in from behind. Fungal's landing on all of those stalkers. But Lilbow, he's kind of sensed, hey, look, you don't have a 3rd base up. I've been producing a lot of Blink Stalkers. I've got +1. I can just shove my way in. I don't need to be fancy at all.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen, for walking us through that one. In Control, last thought here going into the next map for what does Zanster need to do to pull this back to Game 5?
Well, he's tried the cheese. I mean, Lilbow just has this like 3rd eye seeing through everything he's thinking about. He needs to take a deep breath. Hopefully this break allowed him to do that. And go back to his mechanics. He's a mid-game Zerg. We've seen his cheese throughout the WCS so far, and it hasn't been great. Get in that mid-game. Show us your aggression.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's head back to the commentary team to conclude Lilbow and Zanster.
Lilbow 1 game away now from being able to move on to the grand finals here of the World Championship Series Season 3. But Zanster showing throughout the series so far that he is definitely not afraid to maybe throw in some wild cards there and keep his composure under this very, very high-pressured situation.
Yeah. The idea was very good, I think. He knew how Lilbow was going to open, kind of like he did in map number 1. But in the end, Lilbow's execution, just capability to adapt on the fly is just insane. With all the pressure that there is, remember Lilbow here, he's not just competing to try and win the tournament. He wants to go to BlizzCon, and there is no room left for mistakes. He needs to beat Zanster here.
Yeah.
He wants to win this whole thing. And somehow, he doesn't seem that affected by it. He plays the absolute best Protoss play that we ever see out of him.
Lilbow cannot underestimate his opponent. He's still extremely dangerous. Even here, with 1 game to go, he has still got everything up against him. Our next map here will be Terraform. To figure out who's going to be able to take map number 4. And of course, Zanster needs to keep himself alive. This is one last opportunity for him to be able to move on to the grand final. If he did make the grand final, that would be absolutely amazing. All right, let's get into it. As we have, of course, Zanster going up against Lilbow for game number 4 here. Spawning out to the bottom right-hand corner, we have our blue Protoss. 1 game away from the grand final, representing Team Millennium, it is Lilbow! To the top left-hand corner, he's our underdog, but it's his premier appearance here in the World Championship Series Premier League. Representing Team Property, it is Zanster!
We've seen both of these players in action on this map earlier in the tournaments. And Zanster, he had a pretty tough game against Mana in the round of 16. Lilbow, likewise against Hydra, had to face a gold base, wasn't quite able to pull it off. He had a nice 7 gates that was successful, though, against Jedong in the round of 16 himself. So it's going to be interesting to see how both of these players pick their builds and which one it is. And Lilbow, being very worried here already about the gold base, he's going to scout that first here in this game before going to Zanster's base.
It's been such an influencer on this map depending on the direction you actually scout across. Because if you right-click on the other side of the map, the probe will just go through the middle and not really go past that. But the gold base is a little far away from that, so they're sending their probes down towards there, looping past it, just to make sure no craziness is going on.
You need to play so differently like, against the gold base that I think it's not even wrong to just scout it first and then go across the map. And we've seen Betrayers, Hydra use those gold bases very successfully, so I'm really not surprised that Lilbow just respects it this much, checks it first, but in this case Zanster, I guess not this kind of Zerg. You know, you need to be a very specific kind of Zerg to try that, and he prefers to play it a little bit more standard here. Hatchery pull, and then the third base here already going up.
So Zanster already kind of deviating from his third game plan. Obviously that was very, very aggressive. Zanster wanting to have fantastic economy here. He is undeterred despite being in a backwards position here against his opponent Lilbow, who is undoubtedly the favorite. He is just going to go straight into the later stages of this game, try and beat out Lilbow there.
Lilbow here on this map, if he wants to try the same 7 gates that he did against Jaedong earlier, I feel like for Zanster to somehow see it coming and defend properly will be really, really hard. So Zanster has to be very wary. He needs to go the extra mile here in terms of scouting, but on a map like this, sacrificing your overlord and sending it to the proper position where you're going to be able to see that tech from the Protoss or these production facilities is going to be very tricky. You need to get lucky here to some extent to make sure that you can see what it is that the Protoss is doing so that you can defend properly, Kairos.
And already the Lings on the way to spot what's going on at the front at least, as they don't really find too much other than normality. And so from here on out with the sentry popping, Lilbow's gonna reveal with that sentry popping out that it's nothing too crazy, it's a more usual start.
Actually misrunning some probes at the natural here. Lilbow needs to fix that ASAP. That's a lot of minerals he's losing here.
Oh wow, that is a lot. He should be keeping eyes on that pretty soon. They will go back to work now. Obviously he'll want to end up chrono boosting into those very soon.
The crowd loves it. Stargate in the back of his mineral line here. Lilbow, we've seen, it's crazy actually, like both against Terran and Zerg, he really likes to get an Oracle out so that he can have it out on the map, threaten, and keeps it alive. That's the most important thing about it. You know, most players, not gonna name any name, me, you know, I get an Oracle, I use it until it dies and then it's over. But Lilbow, he threatens, he forces spores, he kills drones here and there, he uses Revelation down the line, he uses it as a detection. You know, in map number 1, I really like how Roddy pointed out that he kind of reminded him of MC, because I totally agree. MC was like the one guy a long time ago that was doing a lot of these oracles as opener and then went for big gateway attacks with or without blink and used the oracle as detection to basically get to skip that robo.
Yes, exactly. It smooths out your build a little bit more for sure, and you don't have to spend endless amounts of time waiting for the robo to finish so that you can continue on with some kind of pressure just in case Burrow is down the line here. For Zanster, who's got his Rotorun on the way, he's got his Spore Crawlers coming up, so they will be able to defend the majority of this initial aggression from the Oracle. But as you say, keeping it intact is important.
Lilbow, I wouldn't be surprised here if we just saw a third base, blink +2, and then a lot of gateways as always, with some kind of timing to try and finish it, do some damage if you can. That Oracle here is already going to be threatening. It's already forced 3 spores here, that's the thing. You know, even though you open Stargate, then you get the Oracle, and it's decently expensive. Forcing a Zerg to use 3 drones to build 3 spores, he's not just spending money, he's also using drones that are not going to be mining in the long run. So he slowed down the economy here of the Zerg player while building up his here with Lilbow.
Not much for the Oracle to do at all. There's 0 kills at the moment. There's a lot of Lings in production after seeing this third base going down. And also 4 Overlords as well. So
made a few roaches, made 4 roaches here. Zanster might want to try and be aggressive here. More and more Links are going to start. Remember, he already has speeds here, so I think he's going to try and go across the map here to do some damage. Because the thing is, when you open Stargate like this, you're supposed to, or you're going to have less units on the ground. The thing is, Lilbow's got sentries here. If he lands a bunch of good force fields and then reinforces properly with the gateways that he's getting now, he's gonna be okay. And again, he kept his Oracle alive. Lilbow right now sees the Zerglings streaming across the map. He's gonna start to get ready here with the defense. Already a cannon as well, building in the natural.
And we're gonna see how he's gonna be able to try and react to this. He's trying to wall this off fully here in that middle line, and that's
he gets it.
Yeah, he's been able to do that. The sentries, though, are very, very vulnerable at the moment. The Mothership Core's not there to be able to recall them out. A brilliant move in here from Zanster to catch those units as they were in between these locations here. So we're looking at Lilbow trying to frantically deal with this move out here. Photon Overcharge has been thrown down towards the third base. He's trying to sacrifice or keep alive as many of these sentries as possible, but it's very, very difficult.
Lilbow is losing a lot of very important sentry here. His sentry count's going to be reset. You can see him trying to scramble out as many units as he can. Chrono boosting out the gateways. Should be able to hold on here, I think, eventually.
Yeah, he holds on, but how much was that of a sacrifice here from Lilbow to lose that many sentries? That's a lot of gas.
Yeah, that was huge. He had to also perfect wall his natural, so some probes kind of got stuck in there, trying to rejoin the third with the rally point that he had set. And behind his Zanster's not even done here. He wants to achieve a little bit more than this.
Yeah, there's more Zerglings reinforcing here. Force fields make sure that those Stalkers are going to be okay.
And Zanster goes for the goal behind this. Okay, so Zanster, he's already, I think, decided here what he's going to go into. We should be seeing out of him a lot of Fortress, a lot of Hydralisks, and then a timing at the 13th to 14th minute with a lot of units. But this is still even doing more damage here.
Yeah.
This wasn't supposed to go down like this here for Lilbow.
Got to commend Lilbow, though, for his positioning of buildings to make sure that those Stalkers weren't going to die off against the Zerglings. That was really impressive.
You know, much like when a Protoss player pulls ahead, you know that you can get a lot of Blink Stalkers and then eventually attack. It's what happened earlier on Echo. I think that in this game, if you look at the production tab, Zanster, he knows how much damage he's made here and how many sentries. Actually, he's even getting more probes. This is crazy. He never stops. And with the amount of units and sentries that he has killed, he knows that there's not going to be enough force fields to hold on up against the next attacks here. So Zanster, all he has to do is make a ton of roaches, a ton of Hydralisks, go across the map, try and engage into this army of Lilbow where there is no cannons, no photon overcharge, and he's going to be able to crush it. And if Lilbow just camps turtles, then Zanster attacks elsewhere because Lilbow cannot defend his natural and third base at the same time.
And the longer Lilbow actually waits here, the more that gold base is going to be mining for Zanster behind this. So Zanster's going to have a very, very strong economy across those 4 bases. Blink is not done just yet. You can see Chrono Boost already going into it. Lilbow, maybe a little bit of panic at the moment. Only 1 sentry to his name and not that much gas to be able to re-afford that. He sees with Revelation now this army moving forwards towards his location, and he knows the timer is above his head right now.
I think Lilbow probably already knew as well that this was probably going to come. He still made a lot of probes. He's trying to get more gateways here right now with 4. I don't think they're going to complete on time before this fight begins here. Zanster, he's ready to get down to business here with this attack.
Warping in some sentries as well as Stalkers, knows that that 1 was not enough to be able to try and deal with that. So many gateways, 5 in total. Army supply at the moment for Zanster, 107 army supply at the 13-minute mark to try and crush this location. Trying to set himself up so he can divide up some of this army itself. And he actually gets a lot of the Hydralisks bottled up towards the top here, but I'm not sure it's going to be that much. And not enough, as they actually are able to move around, swing around here. Blinks out with those Stalkers, but Zanster is doing huge amounts of damage against this army towards the third base, and is looking to claim this location and power on down this force.
Lilbow's gonna try to hold on here with some great blinks and some kiting, but Zanster goes towards the natural and sniping the core. It's gonna mean that there's no more blink stalkers there. That can be warped in. It's just gonna be zealots here for Lilbow, and he tries to get a void ray out, but more units are going to be rallied across the map here for Zanster. He wants to finish this. He wants this to go to map number 5.
Getting that 7 in score is perfect. One of the only ways he will be able to deal with this is having more and more Blink Stalkers trying to catch towards that critical mass. But now he can only warp in Zealots here to try and combat against this, using those as the tanks here. Zanster is separating up his force once again. He has a little army down towards that natural that is doing big damage. Another warping of Zealots has come along here to try and do something about this. But he's being zoned out with the main clump of his force up towards the top.
More than double the army supply. Zanster, he's just crushing through these forces. You have Lilbow. The Void Ray is going to come in handy, but Lilbow is stuck in his third base, and anytime he moves out, Zanster's ready.
Zanster is giving Lilbow such a tough time in this series. Look at him performing throughout this WCS season and being able to bring it here to one of the biggest favorites of the WCS as the Void Ray is trying to keep itself alive. Lilbow scrambling, trying to hold on here for dear life as the force is going to have to come back here. Lilbow is going to have to defend this natural location, but the Nexus is already going to end up falling very soon here, and when that does go down, with Lynx coming in back here against those Stalkers, Lilbow is in desperation mode. And the Nexus is going to end up falling as well. Lilbow is in a very bad spot here. Not much he can do at all. There you go, GG. Zanster will be able to take game number 4. And we are going to go to a 5th game to decide who moves on to the Grand Finals. What a performance out of Zanster so far to make sure he keeps himself alive, trying to move through into the grand finals. What a moment it would be for that man on screen if he's able to make it. And likewise, of course, Lilbow needs those WCS points, needs to make the grand final to keep his BlizzCon hopes alive. This is down to the wire, Todd.
Yeah, seems a little bit shaken here. That was a big mistake here by him not to see this army coming and getting his sentry scout. This is a game-losing mistake. In the end, that's really what it came down to. You get your sentry scout out of position like this one single time, and Zerglings get up close. That's it. You lose your sentries, you lose all your defending capability, and then behind this, the Zerg can just power through with more roaches, more hydralisks, more links, and that's exactly what happened here. Zanster was exactly counting on this to happen.
All right, well, our next map will be coming up in just a moment. A huge thank you to you guys in the crowd. You have made this absolutely fantastic so far, and a big shout out to NetWars, of course, here in Poland, as we are going to get into Cactus Valley here for game number 5. And what a way to end it, Todd, here between these two titans now of the WCS. As Lilbow, you know, of course he was here in Season 2 doing so well, but Zanster, he has put himself on the map spectacularly.
Cactus Valley is seemingly the map where Protoss has one of the best record against Zergs on. But to be honest, Zanster has just shown so much skill, strength, everything here in this tournament that I don't even think it comes into play that much here on a map like this. If he's able to scout properly, if he's able to defend, or in this case even sometimes attack, set up the pace himself, he's going to be okay, I think. So build order-wise, also going to be very interesting to follow, not just the openers initially, which again are very important, but if we're to go into a standard, 2-base or 3-base against 2, then Lilbow, does he go for a very aggressive build here in map number 5? We've seen all of those series in the past, series where there was a reverse sweep, or any 5 games long series, very high pressure ones where some players have tried the craziest stuff, the craziest cheese, aggression. Is Lilbow one of those guys here that wants to try maybe something like a 7-gate? Which on this map, he crushed Hydra with his 7-gate earlier. 2 times too.
Yes, he did, and that is a baguette I see right there. Here, before we get into game number 5. What must be going through these players' minds right now? I mean, you've been in the hot seat quite a lot in your professional career, Todd, and both of them. I mean, Lilbow going in the undoubted favourite, and of course we have Zanster being the kind of the newcomer in essence to the WCS. What is going through these players' minds right now?
I think they're probably trying to anticipate and guess what the opponent's going to do as far as build orders go, and try and pick the right one themselves. And sometimes it can happen that for as long as the game finally starts, or even in the early game, you're not going to have decided exactly what you want to go into in terms of, mid-game. But both of these players, they need to make a choice even before the game begins in terms of opener. And a lot of the time, you need to have some sort of a plan as far as the mid-games go. In particular here, Lilbow, because Zanster, as a Zerg, almost always going to be opening with 3 hatcheries, droning up, and then going into Roach Hydra. Whereas Lilbow, there is just so much that he can do. He can go for Stargate, 7-gate blink, anything really, a standard 7-gate with no blink that we saw him, again, beat Hydra very, very well with.
And now all is on the line. Who crumbles under the pressure here at the 5th game? I'm so glad that it goes to a 5th decider game of all things. Who is going to feel the heat here on Cactus Valley? Will it be Lilbow? Or will it be Zanster? One of these two players being able to make it to the final. Fantastic result for them in the end. Absolutely fantastic. We're just having 1 or 2 things sorted here between the players.
Zanster here. This is already the performance here of a lifetime for him. He said after winning his quarterfinal that this was one of the best moments in his life here. Imagine if he was here to make it to the grand finals. That'd be a moment that he would never forget, I think.
Yeah, it would be amazing for Zanster. I think you described it perfectly off air when we were talking about it, Todd. It would be a moment if Zanster was able to make the finals that people would remember forever. Because of how he's been able to make his way through the World Championship Series in his debut performance so far. Lilbow, though, likewise looking to achieve a similarly historic event, having him make the finals twice in a row of all things. Never mind BlizzCon. I mean, BlizzCon is amazing, but twice in a row here in the World Championship Series in the final. Doesn't get much better than that.
He's not there yet, though.
It's true. That is what we are all here for. And what a 2 days of StarCraft it has been so far. From these two players especially. And what a crowd you guys have been as well. Here are the final moments of game number 4, of course, as Zanster being able to put on so much pressure and really force Lilbow into the hardest of positions. And you can see that Lilbow there, a little bit dejected with that defeat, whilst we have Zanster, who has got such a wealth of confidence in him. And it's so impressive to see someone with that kind of confidence be relatively new to these kinds of stages, Todd.
Yeah, this is absolutely new here for him. He's never gone through something like this here before, and every single map that he wins, you can see him fist pump for a little bit, nod his head, because he knows, he tells himself, you can do this. This is it. This is the time. And now going to map number 5, it's really going to be important to keep their composure here for both players, guys.
Yeah. Of course, this is only the first step here in day number 2. We have our second semi-final to come very soon, as well as our grand final. It looks like both of our players are almost ready here to get into Cactus Valley.
Zanster's a pretty funny guy. Even in the chat lobby, always getting a little bit cheeky, even though this is such a high-pressure match, and he knows how important this is.
Yeah.
Taking some time to joke around a little bit. Just tweeted, this is it, game 5, boys.
Wow. Both of them, in fact, exchanging words in between all of these games. I mean, you could even see the camaraderie in them when they came in and holding hands and, you know, having fun with it. But here and now, in this game, it is extremely important as we load up into the final game here of the first semi-final of the day. One of these players will be in the grand final right after this. As we get into the final moments here. The showdown. Spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner, we have our blue Zerg. Representing Team Property, it is Zanster! And up to the top right-hand corner, we have our red Protoss representing Team Millennium. Give it up for Lilbow!
Lilbow is going to be going for a quick scout here. Okay, pylon down his ramp.
Both of these players garnering so much respect here from the Polish crowd. So divided, but what performances they've shown throughout this entire tournament.
Absolutely, and with that quick scout here, Lilbow is going to be forcing a spawning pole first because as a Zerg player, you don't know just yet if there could be some kind of forge and cannon rush, and in this case, Zanster cannot afford to risk it. Lilbow, though, doesn't even go for a forge before the Nexus here. It's going to be the Nexus, and then I'm thinking a forge, but could be a gateway as well, which definitely would be on the very greedy side of things, because then Lynx can be out early and really apply a lot of pressure to you if you don't get that.
I think one of the scary things for Zanster going onto this final map, Cactus Valley, is very rarely does Lilbow ever lose on Cactus Valley. We've seen him make the remarkable recovery against Hydra, then leading into this map, which he was able to dominate there against Hydra. And in previous versus Zerg matches, I think he played against Jadong on it as well, he looked strong despite there being that crazy base trade scenario that actually played out.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it's also close position with these vertical positions also makes it, I guess, an extra incentive to try and be aggressive here, because if you try to play slow, then your opponent's going to be the one attacking. So it's going to be very interesting to see how both players make adjustments here in regards of that. And usually, like I said, you need to play more aggressive, you need to get more units out on the map. And Lilbow now, if he was to try and go for 7 gates, Zanster definitely would have to have some kind of clutch defense, because this guy is one of the best at pulling off this kind of builds.
Definitely. Saw the probe already, and he did manage to spot the third base going down towards the left. At least he's got Zerglings trailing that probe though, so it can't do anything too cheeky at all, so it will head on back home and then keep itself alive against these two Zerglings that have no chance of killing it unless it just stops.
Lilbow's gonna start saturating these gases here, and we should be finding out what tech here he wants to go for as the Cyber Core finishes. Does he get a Zealot, actually? I wonder. Right now, not quite. Oh, yeah, he does get one. I'm wondering if he might just try and skip that, go straight into a Stalker instead. And Lilbow's gonna need a well-placed pylon here, possibly behind the middle line of his main to get his production facilities here going somewhere, because right now the only two pylons he's got are in his wall. And he's gonna start that around the natural, actually, seeing what those overlords are.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things as well for Lilbow's setup is that unlike a map like Terraform, his cybernetics core is never going to be vulnerable at the front of a wall if there was to be some kind of aggressive move coming out from Zanster with the build that he's chosen, with that Forge a little bit earlier on in this game.
Looks like he's just getting sentries here for now, so he might just be seeing a few sentries being made early on, which usually means that you want to go into a big gateway attack with a lot of sentries, or a third base with just the 3 gateways and building up your sentry count. But it's going to be a Stargate. Even though Lilbow opens with the sentry, he's done this quite a bit actually, where he gets a sentry rather than a Stalker and goes for Stargate anyway. Zanster here. Does he scout with an Overlord or not? The thing is, if you send it in, you're not necessarily sure you're going to be able to spot your opponent's tech, and the Overlord's going to die no matter what. And now there's a Zealot here moving out. Zanster doesn't overreact though. He doesn't start like a ton of links. I guess he has already made a bunch, so he knows he's going to be okay anyway.
Even the Queen coming out to greet this Zealot for a moment, with the creep spread already moving on out there. We'll be able to shut this down, going for the surround, and does grab it. And even microing back the links. Once again, we see this. Look at his control. Able to just save every link. Meticulous control from them.
Lilbow could find himself in the same situation here as in last game, by the way. He's going to have to watch out because he's going for the same opener. Zanster is now going to start the Roach Warren. He's getting speed on the way. There is a chance that Zanster identifies that this is the same thing and goes like, I made a lot of Roaches and Zerglings last game. I killed a lot of your sentries and then I won the game. It's time to just do the same. So, in this case, though, we have 3 additional gateways going down here for Lilbow before he goes into any kind of expansion.
All of which has been spotted there by the Overlord. The entire setup here from Lilbow has been spotted at the moment. There is a pylon up on the high ground that he could potentially use to throw down gateways there himself. But this probe's already been moving around at the third base location.
Mothership Core didn't start yet, by the way, for Lilbow here. This is very late. He's going to add at least one more gateway here. Is it going to be more? He's already made too many probes, I think, to be going for a 2 base. Those Zerglings here from Zanster really preventing that third base from going down as early as Lilbow would have liked it here, I think. This is so interesting. Burrow is going to start here.
Uh-oh. Well, it needs to make sure that the Oracle stays alive in similar fashion to what we saw on Bridgehead. Start walling off this third base location. And now Zanster has to identify what is going on. This is a fake third base. Is this a real one? He's already seen a few gateways. It's the sentry count at the moment, but of course, still no Twilight Council down yet to couple up with the finishing of that +1.
Yeah, that Oracle is doing such a fantastic job, by the way, of staying just right outside the base of Zanster to try and spot whatever units are coming out. He's going to spot a bunch of Roaches here moving up. Lilbow does not want the same thing as in last game here to happen. This time around, he actually made a second cannon here in his wall, and it's natural. I think he knows that Zanster is very likely to be playing aggressive here. So even going to be getting a Void Ray here. In this case, Zanster is still started double Evolution Chamber and an Infestation Pit, so I don't think he wants to come into aggression.
A lot of Chrono Boost going into that Void Ray, trying to wall this off before it even gets towards the front of his base. As Lilbow knows that he needs to make sure that this isn't going to do huge amounts of damage. One of these gateways not turned on to Warp Gate. Lilbow would suffer from some production. The Infestation Pit goes down as well. Zanster, with the pressure that he's applying, with the 4th base going down as well as Infestation Pit, it's really opening up good room for himself at the moment. Even the Hive now starts.
And I think he's going to be happy here to be headed into that situation. He's getting a +1 melee and a carapace as well. Lilbow, though, with the amount of gateways that he made, with the amount of sentries that he was making early on in this game, this very well might be here one of those infamous Lilbow pushes here, with a lot of gateways and a lot of blink stalkers.
Yeah, it really could be, but what timing does he hit? Right now, the Hive being on the way, I don't think he knows too much about it at all. No, he does not. He doesn't really know much about the tech in the slightest, but here comes the hallucinated Phoenix because, like we asked, he needs to make sure that he can actually find this out.
And upon spawning here the Hive, I think Lilbow is going to have a choice to make. Does he go for Templar Archives or does he play very aggressive? With a lot of stalkers, he's going to see it now. Sees the infestation pit as well and starts moving out immediately. The 8th gateway here is about to finish as well for Lilbow. And he never took that 6 gas, which is very characteristic here of Lilbow. He was the first Protoss here to do this. 5 gases, 8 to 9 gates. Only blink stalkers, you go forward, you commit everything you have to aggression. And Zanster is just looking to counter-attack here, to maybe try and buy some time.
Yeah, this is a good move here by Zanster to just try and throw his opponent off tilt. And if he can get in towards this mineral line, that would be a fantastic start for Zanster to slowly shut down the position that we're seeing. Even the Roach is getting towards the natural. Oh my god, this is a brilliant move here for Zanster to buy a lot of time. Forces out the recall, but that's still not dealing with the problem just yet. He needs to get in towards his main. He's going to clean up on his natural, but still this has bought huge time for Zanster.
Yeah, Zanster, he's bought a lot of time here for his Hive tech to come into play. Starts an Ultra this cavern. He bought so much time, but he's going to be losing all of those units. And behind this, Lilbow has lost absolutely nothing. So there is a pretty good chance that Lilbow, after blocking these roaches like sitting ducks in a corner here of his base, he's going to move across the map and try and end it before those Hive tech units come into play.
The Ultralisk cavern halfway complete at the moment. 2-2s on the way as well. Some Zerglings even getting towards the Sentry. Doesn't manage to kill that one off with a lot of energy. And a few of the units being sacrificed here for Zanster. He still needs to buy a little bit more time. Getting some Vipers on the field as well here. 2 have started in production. Doesn't have that many units against this.
Lilbow will not be falling back this time. He's going for it. It's time. He wants to move on here to the Grand Finals. He wants to go to BlizzCon. And he's going to move across the map with this massive army full of stalkers here. He's 31 stalkers to 13 roaches, Skylights. Zanster, those ultras cannot come out early enough here for him.
There's not that much of a bank either. There's only one Ultralisk in production at the moment. He's only got Lings and Roaches.
Those spines are really good though. Those spines are going to be very important with a bunch of good fungals here. If Zanster was able to land these, but right now Lilbow's trying to circumvent that by going on to the right, the left-hand side.
He's always going to know where his opponent's army is at the moment. It has been hit by Revelation, so you will know to try and negate that positioning. Spinecrawler's going to try and relocate. 4 Ultralisks in production. One of them will finish up soon, but the other 3 are a little further behind that as the 3rd base is going to get shut down, and it will be 3 base versus 3 base economy for now.
This is... Lilbow needs to attack now into this army because the 2-2s coming up here for Zanster. He needs to attack right now. He's going to get fungled, but he still needs to try and win it now because these ultras, as soon as they are there, they're going to start breaking here those force fields. There's going to be Blinding Cloud as well to work with here in a second from Zanster. This is it here. It all comes down to this big fight.
2 spines have slowed this down for a little bit, but even force fields aren't going to be that great against the Ultralisks at the front. Infestors actually get caught up in this time warp. Double fungal across that entire army, but look at the hallucinated Archons that are going to be able to try and tank up the force at the front here. Still, those Ultralisks need to find a good position, but the Archons are a beautiful touch here. Use that energy to be able to stop those Ultras from getting forwards. Also, Blinding Cloud down towards the left-hand side and trying to lock down as much of this as possible. But the Ultralisks are taking a beating at the moment against this critical mass of Stalkers. 93 army supply against 82.
There's so many stalkers left over here for Lilbow. He's going to kite this army.
And he's going to actually kill off all the majority of the Ultralisks. There's not that many roaches left here to be able to deal with this. Lilbow brings down the last Ultralisk here. There's 3 more in production, but I don't know if it's going to be enough here for Zanster to try and hold on. His army supply is waning. Lilbow breaks down a Viper as well. There's not that much left at all for Zanster.
With just a very few ultras left here. Zanster might have to evacuate this base, relocate on the other base he was taking at the same time. And Lilbow has so much left over here in terms of stalkers. Remember, he's got +2, he can just keep on blinking back. He's 42 stalkers, Skylights, against 26 Zerglings and 2 ultras.
This could be the moment for Lilbow. This could be it. This could be him moving on to his 2nd WCS final, keeping that road to BlizzCon alive here for Lilbow. Zanster tried to fight valiantly, but he's got very little left, trying to transfuse these remaining Ultralisks. But Lilbow has got to feel so confident right now with the amount of stalkers he has left over, seeing these Ultralisks trickle out and be obliterated under the firepower here of all of these stalkers. With his trademark style, he is able to move on through here in flying colours. There is nothing left here for Zanster. GG, well played, and Lilbow will make it to the Grand Finals here of the World Championship Series Season number 3.
makes it to back-to-back WCS Premier League finals. How awesome does that baguette feel right now?
It feels very good, I guess.
I mean, what's going through your head? It went to another Game 5, Lilbow. I feel like you're shortening your lifespan here just in this weekend. How are you feeling after that adrenaline rush?
Well, actually, after the fourth game, I was a bit mad because I expected this push, but unfortunately, my Phoenix that I used to spot the watchers just didn't spot the watchers. So I just didn't know from where they came, and I just lose because of this. Also, I started a Void Ray, but the Void Ray actually didn't start. So I was whipped.
Now, in that last game, too, of course, Zanster trying to put up a fight against you, just try to pressure you just to buy himself some time, force that recall out. Were you at all worried, or were you like, you know what, I can still defend, and after you saw the army composition, did you just decide, all right, if I push now, I'm going to win? What was going through your head at the exact moment?
Well, I was afraid of Mutalisk, but he didn't, so I was pretty okay, I guess. When I saw the one buy, I already had a Void Ray in position, and I knew, like, one buy is nice, but if you send all your army, I just have to recall, I kill all the army, and then I come back, and I win. I think if he just sent like 20 watches, it would all be way more annoying for me.
All right, well, Lilbow, yeah, give him another round of applause. This guy making history this weekend. Last season, you got to the finals. Tough run against Hydra, but now you already took care of him. He's out. Are you gonna take it today? Are you gonna be the first non-Korean WCS Premier League champion? Is that what we're gonna see, Lilbow?
Yeah, I guess that's what we're gonna see. I'm less afraid of Mana or 4GG than I was about Zanster, so I should be fine, I guess, and I'm going to BlizzCon.
Oh, and he's going to BlizzCon! He thinks it's already set, ladies and gentlemen, your first finalist for the WCS Premier League Season 3!
Lilbow does it again. Second season in a row, he goes straight to the finals. What a fantastic performance from the Frenchman. And there's so much to talk about. Right now, Roddy, with this victory, he currently is within the top 16 to play at BlizzCon. He's only 75 points ahead of the previous 16th player, which was Dark. There's that to talk about. There's the fact that for the first time since Stefano last season, he was the first European to make it to the finals. And then he's done it back-to-back, which is the first time in WCS history for a European.
Yeah, absolutely unheard of, especially if you look at the start of the year, man. If you would have said that in January, the foreigner to look out for, the foreigner that was going to make back-to-back finals will be Lilbow, you know, that's surprising. If you would have said Bunny or Snoot, you know, people would have been like, yeah, I can see it happen with the new WCS format. But Lilbow doing this is legendary. Of course, mad props to Zanster as well, because he played one hell of a tournament, man. This has been the best performance of his career, and from start to finish, his challenger run was great. It's great all around. Two phenomenal players.
I think we just saw Zanster, and if I'm pretty good at lip reading, he says, you can do it. It's one game away now from going to BlizzCon, which, Jeff, Naniwal was the last person to play at BlizzCon in 2013. In 2014, there wasn't a representation from America or Europe. Lilbow, a single game away from doing it now.
It's just a huge honor, not just to play there, but to be amongst those 16 players. I mean, we always at tournaments are like, man, 16 of the absolute best. Well, at BlizzCon, yeah, there's 16 of the absolute actual best. And to be accounted up there as a foreigner in StarCraft, that's the stuff of legends. We'll talk about it forever.
And you have to credit Lilbow, how well he's played. Every game he seems to be playing a crowd favorite style, taking it to the last map every single time, but he was deserving of the win, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Lilbow went with what he was good and he was what he's strong at, and he's just so confident at it. In every game, he just kept on pushing in those decisive manners, which he's so good at. And even he said, you know, oh, well, I lost a game there because I didn't get the scouting information. I was a bit annoyed at that. But in the other games where he knew what was happening, he was always so precise in his reactions, and it felt like he was dictating the pace of those games.
Can't help but feel, Roddy, everyone in France right now is going absolutely berserk. I mean, we know the French scene is such a big and booming scene, and to have a player represent their country 2 times in the finals is massive for them.
Yeah, especially because this time he's not going up against a Hydra. It's going to be Mana or 4G, 2 phenomenal players, but he already said, like, he thinks he can do it. So I'm sure the Frenchies are ecstatic. Just to look a little bit back at that semi-final again.
Yep.
So much killer instinct, though, from Lilbow. Every single time he marches across the map, he pretty much wins, you know. It's hell or glory glory. There's nothing in between for this young man. And most of the time when he actually moves out, it's everything. He's just doing such a phenomenal job. Most Protoss players, after scouting what they see on Cactus Valley, they're like, you know, let's go up to 4 bases, get my robotics. No, not Lilbow. It's like, all right, let's get the gauge, you know, let's get it going. I'm not going to fight against well-upgraded Ultras. I'm going to try to finish it right here, right now. And I love it, man. It really reminds me of MC.
It's such a fun and enjoyable playstyle for everyone watching this type of aggressive Protoss. He's 2 base, 3 base, but as you said, he just knows when to attack, and that's such a good trait to have as a professional here.
Well, I mean, if you're going to be an aggressive Protoss, that's kind of,
you have to be good at that.
And he does, and he is good at that. And I like what Kevin was talking about, too. Like, very rarely do we see a Lilbow game go into the late stages, and that's because, just like MC, the comparison is very true, he's a mid-game Protoss. And I like the Death or Glory reference, too. It's like, he doesn't even take the second gas as third base. He's like, guys, I don't need that. It's all about now. And, you know, there's going to be lovers and haters of it, but it's taken him to the finals twice. I think we're okay with it.
I know we have picked 2 very, very good other semi-finals left to go in 4GG manner, but are you aboard the Lilbow hype train that he can actually play at the global finals?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been saying it. After we saw his performance yesterday, it was always like, oh, you know, can he make it through Hydra? He made it through there. And now after this win, I mean, it was close, but in the last game, he did look decisive. He looked strong. And I think now going to the finals, I would probably call him the favorite against either of those possible opponents.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's take a quick look at the bracket, and we've had it updated as the first semi-final of the day has been completed. Lilbow is our first finalist, goes through and is playing in that best of 7 a little bit later on. But that means, for everyone in here, the man of the last couple of days is coming to play. Mana goes up against 4GG in a Protoss versus Terran, which I'm sure is going to be an excitement to remember, as this is going to be a cool game, Roddy.
This is going to be fantastic. I mean, yesterday I was watching in the audience with the fans, you know, just Nate and me, we were done. We were like, all right, let's watch from downstairs. An absolutely unique experience. I think the house is going to go down if Mana actually makes it to the final. It's going to be so sick. PvT also, I think, a very fun matchup to watch. And we haven't really been talking that much, but for 4GG, there's so much on the line as well. I mean, we're even a little bit critical about 4GG, you know, before. It's like Season 1, quarterfinals, Season 2, round of 16. Start of the year, everyone thought 4GG was going to dominate WCS. He was the big favorite for Season 1, but now he's bouncing back really strong in Season 3, and that's very fun to see as well.
Yeah, either way, whichever way this goes, we're either going to have a Polish player in the finals, or it is a game to play at the global final. It's so sick right now where we are. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time to head to a very quick commercial break. Remember, it's only a couple of hours left until the Legacy of the Void cinematic is revealed. We'll be right back.